Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am excited to be sharing with you today this new collaborative partnership that A Place to Be is doing with the Michael Fields Agricultural Institute. I have with me today Nicole Taugis. She is Dr. Nicole, and she is an agroecologist, which we're going to learn all about in just a minute. She is going to be collaborating with A Place to Be to be bringing us some really exciting programming. A Place to Be has talked about all different aspects of spirituality. And one area that we've been talking a lot about lately, especially with COVID, is how we connect, how we are so interconnected with each other and with all of creation. And so this collaboration that we're going to be doing will be talking and focusing in on how we are connected to creation and how what we do affects the environment and everything around us. And so I'm super excited to introduce Nicole to you. Full disclosure, she's my niece and I adore her, and she's incredibly smart and she's beautiful. And I'm just so excited to introduce her to you, my other family, who I also adore. And so with that, Nicole, or would you like me to call you Nikki or Nicole?
We should stick with Nikki. Otherwise, it's going to be weird.
Because that is what I am used to calling you. So thank you. So first of all, please tell me, because I don't think I've ever asked you, what is an agroecologist?
Agroecologist is a relatively new term, and it's a new discipline. Probably came around in the last 10 years, and it has come out of this increasing recognition of environmental and ecological issues associated with agriculture. So when I went to school, I was trained as an agronomist, which is sort of an older British word for a crop scientist. So I study how we create agricultural systems, and in a more modern sense, I study how we create new agricultural systems. So I do a lot of field research about, how can our management practices yield to higher quality and higher yielding crops and things that we can bring to our table to eat, because that's what agriculture is about. But increasingly, the study of agronomy has involved in measuring the environmental impacts of our agricultural practices, because we're realizing that agriculture has resulted in a lot of what have been negative impacts on the environment. We've displaced a lot of habitat for insects and wildlife. So we've negatively impacted biodiversity. The fertilizers and chemicals we apply have resulted in runoff and pollution of surface waters, and very famously the Gulf of Mexico. And there are many more examples. But so we really have to think about how our actions agriculturally impact the environment and ecology. And there's also increasing recognition that we can have a positive impact on the environment and how other species do in our world through our land management practices. And so we're really trying to flip the script, and agricultural ecologists or agroecologists are studying that, like me. So how can we design systems that create food that's high quality, we grow enough food to feed everybody, but then also how can we design things that benefit the environment as well? And that's new. People haven't thought about this even in history. Well, that's not entirely true. We have to give credit to the indigenous people who designed systems that were very good at that. So it's not entirely new, but it's new for our modern post-industrial world, basically.
Wow, that is so much more than I thought that was going to be there. And I know that you were super passionate about this work, and we can see it in just even how you're describing it. And I'm wondering, what drew you to this field? What fires this passion for you?
Yeah, the much more simple answer. I always loved being outside. So I knew I didn't want to sit at a desk all the time. And I loved nature and being out in nature. And so that's the first part. And then the second part was quite simply, I wanted to be an environmentalist, but resources in our society are unfortunately pretty poor for environmental research and environmentalists. And I also realized that there are more resources that are devoted to agriculture, and agriculture has a huge impact on the environment, as I just said. And actually, agriculture accounts for 30% of global human land use. So if you work in agriculture, I would have more resources, and I would have the ability to make a big impact on what I cared about.
Well, thank you. And we're excited that you're going to share that impact with us.
Yeah, that's important. It takes all of us, right? We're all occupying this land. So it takes everybody, which is what I've increasingly realized. And which is why we're here, you know, trying to talk to more people about these issues. And I know that people get really inspired about it. And so I'm just excited to have that conversation with more folks.
Yeah, that we each can do one small thing to have a huge impact on the environment, I think is inspiring for everyone, you know, to not feel like, what can I do? Because so often that's the question, what can I do? And you're going to help us learn about what are things that we can do to have a positive impact. So excited about that. But before we get quite that far, can you tell me a little bit more about the Michael Fields Agricultural Institute? What do you do? Where are you at? What's your focus?
Yeah, so it is a mouthful. We're Michael Fields Agricultural Institute. It's not a person, as many people say. Michael Fields is a reference to anthroposophy, which is a philosophy out of Germany. So anyway, we're not going to get into the weeds about that, but it's not a person. It's our institute, Michael Fields. And Michael Fields has been around a long time, since the mid-'80s. And it was started by Christopher Mann, a German farmer, and who came to America, obviously, and settled in East Troy, Wisconsin. So we're based out of East Troy, which is about 45 minutes southwest of Menominee Falls. And we also have our policy folks in Madison. And the Michael Fields Institute was started to serve as a beginning farmer incubator. There still is, even back then, there was all this worry that we wouldn't have the next generation of farmers with farmers sort of becoming older, and then younger people not being interested in farming. So for many, many years, they trained beginning farmers in organic agricultural practices so that we could continue to have people growing fresh food in Wisconsin, local food. That was really important too. And since then, we moved away from that. And now we're more focused on community outreach and research. Like I was saying, I do field research designing new crop systems. We also have a really strong policy team based out of Madison. So it's a really important thing that we do. We take pieces of the Farm Bill. People might have heard of that. It's a giant package of federal money that goes out to support farms and a bunch of food programs. It's a huge bill. And so a lot of what our policy program does is they help communicate between the farm community, especially small farms who have a smaller voice generally at the federal lobbying level. And then the federal bill writer, policy writer folks. So there's sort of a little bit of lobbying on the part of small and sustainable farms. And then it's also taking the Farm Bill allocations and communicating that back to the community and helping people get connected with all those resources. They also do some advocacy at the state level, which is why they're based out of Madison, so that they can communicate with our lawmakers about practices that support sustainable agriculture and particularly healthy watershed initiatives. We're really strong in that area. So in essence, we do a lot of things, but we're focused on sustainable agricultural education, a little bit of research, and then also policy.
Sounds very complicated and sounds really important to the future of really the food production in Wisconsin and the world, actually. So that's really awesome work that you're doing. And you mentioned education. You mentioned, consumer education. And as part of that, you're launching this ecological farming and living education series. Can you talk, and that's kind of where our collaboration comes in. So can you speak a little bit to that series and what that's about and what you're hoping to accomplish?
Yes. Um, for most of my career, I've worked with farmers. Over time, I've come to realize that farmers are a really small part of the population, very small percentage. I don't know what it is, but I think it's maybe 1% to 2%.
Wow.
So really, when we think about the power that we can exert to make decisions that improve management practices, it really does have to be all of us. And so increasingly, I've realized that, us folks, us agroecologists need to be talking to consumers, food aiders, which, hey, that's everybody. We all eat, which is part of what's fun about my job, is there's that point of connection with everybody. And so and then with the COVID-19 pandemic, it's given a lot of people a new opportunity, or sparked a new interest to garden, to spend more time outside, to spend more time on their land and interacting with plants and doing landscaping and all those sorts of things you enjoy doing in your yard and on your land, on your grounds, whatnot. And so people want to know things that haven't been traditionally communicated in school or in, I don't know, whatever community classes. And so I've seen a need, family members and friends texting me questions. Is this a weed? Why does my plant look sick? All of that sort of thing. People have these questions and they want to know, and it's coming up. And so we wanted to provide some educational opportunities so that people could have an opportunity to learn about some of the nuts and bolts behind plants and gardening and ecology, very specifically, like what can you do to grow food really well and have pretty plants, but also how can you do that in an environmentally friendly way. And we also wanted to, what's the second part I was going to say? We also wanted to create opportunities for people to meet other folks who are interested in that too, which classes and workshops do a great way. And then because when we can come together this year, or whenever that's going to happen, when we can come together, we can really start to have those conversations about why these things are important, and we can make new friends, and then we can spearhead new collective initiatives, hopefully, as well.
Sounds exciting. And I know that I'm going to invite you next to talk about some of the classes that you have lined up, and they're all so interesting, and I'm not sure how I'm going to fit it in, but I want to make sure that I get into each of these because there's just so much information that I think is helpful. So along those lines, we're going to start off with some virtual classes because we're still living in this virtual world. And I'm wondering if you could share a bit. I have 3 in front of me that are currently lined up. And so I'm wondering if you could share a bit about the current offerings, and then we'll maybe give some teasers of some things to come.
Sure. Right now, and this is a workshop I'm really excited to take because I don't know about it. Our big one that we're gearing up for is organic apple management. So a lot of people in Wisconsin have apple trees in their yard. I know from personal experience, I've never been able to learn very much about how to get those big, beautiful apples that you see at the Elegant Farmer, or when you go to an apple orchard to pick apples. Do you pick, how do you grow that? You have these apples in your yard. And so and also it's on your land, it's near your dogs, it's near your kids. You don't want to be spraying nasty chemicals on those trees. But you also don't want buggy apples. And so we're really excited to be working with Deirdre Birmingham from the Cider Farm, which is out in the Driftless region, but they have a tasting room in Madison. And she has had an organically managed, it's certified organic apple orchard where she grows cider apples for their cider operation for decades. So she's a very experienced orchardist. So she's going to be teaching us all about how to manage apple trees organically to get really nice fruit. And she also, as part of that workshop, we're actually mailing people rootstock and scion in the mail, and she's going to teach people how to graft. So you're going to learn how to graft your own trees. And that's not just for apples. You can graft any tree onto any rootstock that's fruit. So that's going to be a good skill. And then you get that apple tree that you can graft and then you can plant this year in your yard come spring. So I'm really excited about that. And that's me learning new things too from Dr. Birmingham. And then we also are going to be offering how to start your own seeds at home. I've been starting seeds for almost a decade, since I did it on top of my ottoman near a window in my college apartment.
I remember that.
And it's evolved quite a bit since then. So I really want to share with other people what I've learned over the years. And we're going to talk about what equipment you need to start your own seeds at home. Spoiler, you should not start seeds by a window for best results. So we're going to talk about how to navigate the plant lighting world and what you need to have and what you don't need to have. And we're going to talk about how you can start your own seeds so that you can have unique tomatoes and unique peppers that you can't find at the big box stores. And starting your own seeds at home also heads off any disease issues that very often come from big box store plants. So when you do them at home, you know, they're less exposed to all the other plants that are in the product stream, or the supply chain rather, and grown in big monocultures. And so those tend to seed in the late blight issues. If your tomatoes turn brown in July and shrivel up, that's late blight, and it generally comes from big box store tomatoes. So, you know, you can just head off a lot of issues from starting your own seeds, and it's fun, and it's something to do inside in the wintertime.
Especially when you're just craving something, you know, get your hands dirty and see something green. That is the perfect time. That one's in March. So that's the perfect time to just call forth this, you know, we need spring. So
exactly. I think, you know, standing under the plant light for a while heads off some seasonal affective disorder. Also, you can skip a trip to the tanning salon.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then you're doing the whole garden and farm planning. What's that one about?
Yeah, that we want to talk about crop rotation, which people don't think about in a garden, but it's super important. So you don't want to plant your tomatoes in the same spot every year, because they'll grow better if you don't. And there are plants that grow together, which Kelly and I were talking about a week ago. So maybe garlic and tomatoes, but
garlic and tomato.
Companion plantings. You can plant two different crops together, and they actually, it's co-beneficial. It's mutually beneficial if you do so. It's good for you.
It would also increase your yield as far as being able to grow more variety, because you're not needing to necessarily space things out as much. You can kind of put them closer together. I'm thinking of my garlic plants along with the tomatoes you can plant, because garlic takes up so little space, but I could be wrong. You're the expert.
No, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. For some of us growing in small raised beds in a little area of the yard, yeah, you want to really get the most bang for your buck out of that space. So yeah, it's important. And then, like I said, it's also good for the soil to have all that plant diversity in there. And then we're also going to be talking a little bit about sort of landscape arrangement and how, you know, really basic landscape design. And with that, then we're going to start weaving in some how to conduct landscaping that's eco-friendly or good for the environment. So how can you put plants in your landscape that good for your yard and is good for the environment, like bees and other habitat as well.
Yeah, all of these classes really resonate with me as far as very tactile and practical ways of interacting with our environment, where we gain a better understanding of our, you know, what we can do and how we can have fun with it. And also our kids can learn things. We can do things as a family. So we're building community in the process as well. And it just sounds like so much. It sounds challenging. I won't deny that. The apple tree one feels a little scary to me, but I trust that, you know, you and your colleague are going to baby step us through that process, and so that, you know, will help us all succeed. So I'm excited about all of that. And I know that we're going to have all these classes on our website. We're going to have them in an email blast to really encourage folks who are currently connected with the place to be to get connected with this as well. So as a way of being introduced to you and your institute, so that this summer, when we can get back together, we're hoping to be able to host some fun, interactive classes, workshops here on site at a place to be as well. I don't know if we can give any teasers to that yet, because I'm not sure if we've got any of those things solidly planned yet, but we know we've been playing around with some fun topics and titles and where we can go with it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and part of the reason we originally wanted to have these workshops in person but outside, but then we thought it might be really cold this spring, so let's stick with virtual. But then I do, I'm excited about coming up by you, and we can be outside and enjoy the fresh air and do all the social distancing that we need, but then also find a way to be together and out in the sunshine and with plants. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk with your people at a place to be about how, we can think about designing these gardens and how we can weave in sort of spirituality concepts with the observations that we can make as we build our gardens, as we build our landscapes, as we see wildlife coming in, as we get to experience and be a part of nature that we helped create and we're a part of. So I think that's going to be really special. And then I think we're going to have some, probably a composting class. So for folks who have tried to do that with a stinky pail, we're going to move beyond the stinky pail step. And I think we can maybe do some seed starting in person too, and start seeds together. I have over 1,000 seed packets donated by Fleet Farm that I'm really excited to start sharing with folks. So we're just going to be giving those out at these events. And yeah, those are some teasers, I guess, that I'm really excited to be doing outside with people. And I would love to learn more also about some of the people's experiences with spirituality and how that weaves into our topics as well.
Sounds like we have a lot of learning and growing together as we explore, these topics and the outdoor world. It is going to be a blast. I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you for spending this time with me this morning as we share this opportunity with our folks and introduce you to our community, and look forward to, exploring all of this more in the coming spring. So thank you, Nicole, for your time this morning. Good luck with getting all these programs pulled together, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Thank you so much. And I'm so looking forward to meeting your community at a place to be. And I'm so pumped for our partnership. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Nicole.